friends, and welcome to another Darling Bish Hour with your girl, Melissa Reich,
and Amy Phillips, drama darling. Hey.
Hi,
Melissa.
Amy. How are you? How are you?
How you doing? I'm doing great. Can't wait to get our Bish therapist session going. I think you're covered by my insurance, so I'll give you my copay afterwards. I have a lot to get off of my chest when it comes to the topics that we're discussing in our Bravo world. And also, we're going to be talking about we're going to dip into the Olympics, a little bit of an Olympic swish, if you will.
Yes, I love that. Yes, today we're going to talk a little bit about Karen Huger at the Potomac reunion because Amy and I both have a lot of thoughts about that. We are also going to be talking about Craig Conover because I have not experienced trolling like I have until I've been posting about Craig. And I feel like this needs to be talked about.
Wow, that says a lot because I know you've had a lot.
A lot. So a lot of trolling. To your point, Amy, for me to notice the level of this, that does say a lot. It does.
Wow. Who knew it would be Craig?
Who knew? Well, there's a lot of that going around supporting crappy behavior. So listen, we're going to mention it all. And then at the end, that is when we're going to talk about, you and I, we got really into the Olympics. And I'm going to talk about the 12 core psychological characteristics shared by Olympic champions. There have been some studies done.
I cover at least 7 of those. You'll probably notice that as she's going through them, that I also,
you might, Amy.
I can relate with, I'm kidding. Oh my God, Melissa, there's no way. And I'm totally joking, but wow, thanks for jumping on board with my joke.
No, I know you're joking, but so here's the thing. We're recording this on International Women's Day, and
It is.
So we're recording this on 3/8, which is Sunday, which today is International Women's Day.
Happy International Women's Day.
Yes, to the woman who literally made my life possible, Amy Phillips.
Your life.
This was a happy accident. I mean, literally, happy accident. You've made my life possible here in this realm.
In the podcast world.
Yeah.
Look,
I mean,
you were
really
going to get there. You were going to get there with me or without me. Glad I'm along for the journey. But yeah, this is cool that we're here together on International Women's Day.
And in all sincerity, while you were joking, I think you might be surprised that when we read off like the core characteristics, I think that you don't have to be an Olympian to possess these. And I think that they're just like good ways to manage life. And so people listening to might be surprised, like, oh, I'm kind of doing this. And
that's cool.
So today is an episode to uplift women. And well, I guess starting with Karen, we're not going to quite uplift Karen Huger, but
oh God.
No.
Happy International Women's Day. Did you guys see Karen on the Lord?
No, but here, in all seriousness, I will preface what we're about to talk about with the fact that, that old Tyra Banks meme, we were all rooting for you, which now takes different meaning considering what we've learned about Tyra and some of her tyranny.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's old is now new again.
Right. But I think with Karen, it's like, we want to see her win. I want to see Karen win, but I don't want to hear a bag of bullshit as she's trying to parade around like she's winning. That's my trouble, right?
Yeah, that's the problem. And we always want to see housewives and Bravo celebrities win.
Always.
Clearly when we started tuning in, at the beginning, I can only speak for myself, but, watching them lose over and over again is also part of the journey and the entertainment of it all, that a lot of them are a hot mess. But now as you take a journey with them and you've been on the journey for so long, you are left with like, please get it together. It's not fun anymore. We want you to succeed and be healthy. And that's what's tough about it. It's like that's the irony, at least for me, and where I struggle. It's like, great, I'm just going to watch these people drink and do all these crazy things on reality television and just laugh all the way to my wig closet, and then go do parodies. But then years later, we're looking at rehab, we're looking at prison, we're looking at all these things, and I'm going, but my wigs, I can't use them anymore.
Right.
It's too sad.
I know. And here's the thing, even though you're hilarious and part of you're joking partly, but it is like so hard to have these parasocial relationships where we watch these shows for years. We
Parasocial.
genuinely want to see people win. But then it's like we also don't want to support bad behavior. And I think
it's a real conundrum, Melissa.
Oh my gosh, it really is. And so I think, we didn't even plan to talk about this, but I think it's a good intro into the discussion because I don't want to be angry with Karen Huger or Craig Conover for the things that they're doing. But I think for me, it's my responsibility when I see this behavior to say, here's what I'm seeing and here's why we should be concerned. Because for me, like as a helper, holding people accountable is part of being a helper. Like we can't just support really dangerous behavior. And I think to your point, that's kind of what we're seeing. It was like, well, on Southern Charm or like on Real Housewives of Potomac, like Craig or Karen being drunk might have been funny at one point, but it's like, it's not funny anymore. Because addiction isn't, it's like sad now. It's hard to watch and it's hard for other people to experience in their orbit. So for those listening to this, Amy and I struggle with it just, I think, as so many people do. Like I've had people come into my comments on Instagram saying, I want to ethically watch these shows, but it's like not as entertaining anymore because when it turns so dark, it's not... it's like with The Valley last season, it was like almost so dark that it was hard to watch, which by the way, that's coming back in April. Oh my gosh, so many shows coming back.
There's a flood.
A literal
upon
flood.
us. A Bravo flood upon us. So everybody bat down the hatches, get your supplies. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like go to Costco, go to Sam's Club, do what you have to do. Buy water. Okay. We're going to need to hydrate. We have so much to talk about. There's going to be very little time. You're going to feel stressed, but we need to keep pushing forward. Okay. Carry on, Melissa.
I know I'm not. And listen, my birthday is in April. And normally I take some time off, but I'm like, I cannot take any time off. There's going to be too much.
Can't. I'm sorry. Happy birthday, but no.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, but keep on working. You got to work. You got to work. This is your job. You got to work.
That's right. That's right. What can we say? All right. So let's start out with Karen at the reunion. I think the reunion for me was a little confusing just because there was a lot of Stacey and Monique, and then Monique made accusations, but then she's walked them back on social media. And I'm still not sure what the heck is going on there. Did you see that, Amy?
No, she walked back accusations about Stacey.
Yeah. Whatever the video at the reunion that Monique played was allegedly her daughter talking about Stacey and their dad, Chris, like having a conversation. Right. It was allegedly from her daughter. But what Monique posted on social media is that after doing some digging and some exploration, she actually thinks Stacey didn't do anything. And I'm like, wow, well then I just don't know what to make of it all. So I just wanted to say that because that was one thing that I caught and I was like, I don't understand this, but I guess to be continued.
I didn't realize it was her daughter in the video.
Well, that's what I saw, like allegedly online
her
from.
daughter,
Yeah. So
well, that's just like, that's nuts. I'm sorry. Don't bring a video of your daughter. Like now you're bringing your daughter into it. And then Stacey, if she is innocent of this, then Stacey handled it very well by not speaking to it at all, because a lot of people could have like completely went nuts about like anything. Her tongue had to have been tied because she can't say anything because it's a child. That's really tough. If that's what it was, that's really hard to wrap my head around.
Right. And listen, if I am wrong, that is the latest information that I've gotten online. If I am wrong, please let me know. But, so that whole thing's just messy. And for that reason, I'm like, I just wanted to mention it. But so prior to Karen arriving on set, what I noticed is the group were especially Giselle was talking about Andy's interview with her. And Giselle thanked Andy for holding Karen accountable because she quote unquote needed it. And what I can appreciate, and here's the theme, by the way, that I'm following when it comes to Karen and Craig, okay, is that I made the point on social media that we don't know these people, right? We don't know them personally. I'm not their therapist. We watch them on TV like everybody else. So what we have to do is take the cue of the group, of the people around the people that we're talking about, to inform us of should we be concerned, right? Like, it's not like we're talking about Karen and Craig and the rest of the group is not concerned. The groups around these human beings are concerned.
We've also had time with them. We've also had time witnessing dynamics over years. And we've had little Easter eggs dropped a long time ago about certain things, then more and more and more. So it's not like another cast member is trying a smear campaign on another cast member for one season or several seasons. It's more of a collective understanding that now everybody gets. And now when you hear the masses speak on it, you have to believe, what perhaps the people are saying.
Right. The people who are experiencing this, who know Karen, who know Craig, the people in their orbit, their castmates, those are the people's lead who we need to follow. And so I say that at the beginning because it's not like we're sitting here saying, wow, this is really bad, but everyone else is like, no, it's not. Like, we're not making things up. Because I'm going to be honest, I feel very gaslit by social media right now. And my head is spinning a little bit because I always like to think about, well, I understand I know that I don't know these people. I'm not always right. But bad behavior is bad behavior. And, we live in a world where people don't want that called out, which is a much deeper rooted issue, but nevertheless. So Andy, the first thing that happens, Karen comes out. I kind of outlined a couple of major bullet points, is that Andy asked Karen about claims that she was shedding her Grande Dame title. Do you remember this, Amy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, shedding.
Yeah, whether
like
she
a
was
new skin.
Right. Like a I don't know, like a snake, just shedding their skin.
Right.
That's but Karen said, and I quote, "I tried to shut it. It's not working. I give the people what they want." Woof. Woof. And my goodness, did that set the tone for the rest of her part?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just kind of resonating in that right now. That was such a classic Huger answer too,
Yes.
And how long did she try to give it a rest? Like what point?
When she was in jail, maybe, and out of the public eye. I mean, and Amy, guess what? I guarantee up in the jailhouse, Karen had some of those ladies calling her Grande Dame. I would guarantee it.
And as they should, I mean, look, she got in there. She's been nicknamed by Potomac and the United States of America and beyond. So why not embrace a nickname in prison? I can't think of a better place to have a nickname. Or there is another nickname that we don't know about.
Right.
That she tried on.
She
was like, that one is worse. So I'm going to stick with Grande Dame,
Right. I just feel such a red flag though, because it's like, for me, one of the things that we're talking about today is addiction. And when it comes to addiction, I understand it very well, number one. And number two, the most alarming part of what we see with Karen is just the lack of humility. Mm-hmm. People coming out on the other side of a real recovery journey, you will see things in their behavior. They are humble, their ego, they put it to the side. They accept that there's a lot of things that they don't know. They will come in with a humility about things that what Karen's showing us is the opposite of that, which is like a real concern. And so one of the things was that Giselle was talking to Andy, or they were talking before Karen came out, and they were like, it really seems like she's taking accountability. And here's the thing. So for people who don't have a clinical eye, really on the surface, it might seem like she's saying the right words. But then if you really examine, the words are a lot of kind of like what I call word salad, which is just a nonsense way for Karen to justify the things that she's doing, but make you think that she's taking accountability.
Yeah.
Which is just not the move.
Now, let me ask you this. So this is why I have a problem with her being on the reunion, for one.
Yes.
And maybe even doing that interview with Andy. I don't even think she should have done, certainly. As a viewer, as a fan, I'm like, get an interview. Let's go. But as somebody who would be concerned about another person, I would say absolutely not. Don't do that because she's not ready. She's not to the point, where she's actually been able to be fully honest with where she is. So my question for you is it too soon? Like some people don't quickly get turned around and discover that humility and work the steps and get to a place of full, I'm going to start recovery and I have acknowledged everything and I'm ready to go. But she hasn't gotten there, obviously. So now where does that leave her? I mean, she is a statistic. I mean, not everybody who goes to rehab, which I don't even know how long she was in rehab because then she went to prison. So did she even have an opportunity to completely heal or work on herself? It's like she was shuttled off. And so now she has to speak on where she is, but she hasn't even had time to even get to where she needs to be. So that's where I'm going. We shouldn't, because now she's going to get lambasted by all of us because it's like you are saying that you are an addict, but you're actually not going to say that you're an alcoholic. Okay, that makes zero sense. You're going to come in and say, I'm the grand dame. Okay, that makes that none of this clocks out. But then if you look at the timeline, it's like she hasn't even gotten to a place where she's had the time to maybe even be honest and actually get sober. That's where I'm so conflicted. Please don't bring her on the reunion. She just got out of prison and she needs to go to rehab. She put her back into rehab. How long was she in rehab? For 1 month?
Well, and that's a really good point because the timing, and I'm not sure of it, but it looked like the timing was Karen went to rehab before her sentencing for an undetermined period of time. In terms of that timeline, it couldn't have been that long of a time between when it happened and then when she went to jail. And so here's the thing. They say, when it comes to addiction, if your addiction is left unchecked, there is, institutions or death. That's it. That's what in the program, that is what they talk about. If you do not get your addiction under control, it's jail, other institutions, or death. Those are the only options. And so for me, to reiterate, this is why I take it really seriously, because when you work with people with addiction, when you see people die from this disease, it's not cute. It's not funny. Addiction is a terrible disease that deserves empathy, but it also deserves to be called out. And the way that this has to work is that people in recovery need to be open to feedback from trusted sources, from people who have time in recovery and all that other stuff. Here's what I would wonder. I would wonder what people in the programs that she's attending, if she's still attending them, because I know that she did in jail. And I don't know if that's part of her probation or parole, whatever she's on. Sometimes there are mandated things that people need to do in terms of continuing 12-step meetings. I don't know what are her mandates, but I think that the point that we're making is that we want to see Karen do better. And it's to answer that question, it is common for people who, to your point, when they're ushered right from addiction to treatment to jail and then they come out, I don't think she's had time to really process. I think she's trying to present an image that she wants to present before the image has caught up. You know what I mean? She's trying to present that thing before she's authentically taken that in and let that settle in with her, if that makes sense. That's how I feel.
It completely makes sense. I mean, you couldn't have said it better. And that's, the beast that has been created. Not only is it obviously part of her personality and who she is, but then she has this juggernaut of reality television and a namesake or an alter ego that she has to live up to, while meanwhile, all this stuff is going on behind closed doors. And here she has to now sit down and have a one-on-one. Now, so for me, when I was watching that, definitely was wow, she really, she's floating above, she's flying above
all the drama. I rise above.
She flies. She flies above. She flies above.
Oh, flies. And, that's right.
Yeah.
You fly above.
It's the same idea. Yeah, exactly. So she was doing that. And yet at the same time, she was kind of trying to touch down in the middle. She'd swoop down and be like, oh, no, I am a full, addict. Yeah. And then she'd go back up and it would be very surface. So the problem is, it's as I'm talking through this, I don't have that much of an issue with having that interview with her after prison. Okay. So I'm actually kind of glad about that. My biggest problem is reunion. I do not think she should have gone to the reunion. And I don't think we should hear for her for another year, because that's where, she didn't have a chance to really do the full treatment. And so now, so she couldn't really speak. I don't know what I expect of her, except for I wish she would have hit rock bottom a decade ago when she's had all these alcohol-related incidents where she got, tickets and, jail time or when she was written up. And so it's kind of like, where were you before? Why is it taking this long? And now you've built up so much. So,
and that's a scary thing. To your point, there's 2 points I want to make here is that for some people don't hit a bottom. Like I have treated people in inpatient rehabilitation centers that literally continue to almost die due to the things that they're like there's what would be a bottom for you or me. For
do you have to hit a bottom?
Well, some people do, but some people, it's not so much a bottom as it is consequences. Like humans respond to everything differently. Some people respond more to consequences like legal consequences than they do, seeing something in their life and saying, oh, this is a bottom for me. Sometimes when people are too sick, they can't see that bottom. They can't feel that bottom. It's like, So that is one of the things that we see, number one. But number two, an important point that I want to make is that what we're seeing with Karen, make no doubt about it, is still denial and minimization. However, it is very normal and very common. Recovery is not linear. It is a process that is up and down and circular and cyclical, and it's just all over the place.
You'd think that going to prison would be the bottom. But what you're saying is, it doesn't necessarily mean that was her bottom, and she may not ever get to a bottom. But then what would be the thing that would wake her up if not prison?
I think not being on the show. If I'm going to be honest, I think for Karen, her real bottom wouldn't come until Bravo said, put her on a Dorinda pause. And we can tell they're already not going to do that because she came back for the reunion. I think that is what Karen really cares about. And if she didn't have that, then she might rethink some of her behaviors.
Wow. But would she be getting well for the wrong reasons so that she could come back to the show?
Sure. Because that's the other thing is the one thing I can promise you is that whether it's the risk of going to jail, like sometimes people come into treatment and if they relapse, they go to jail. They don't care. If they relapse, they get kicked out, whatever happens, it doesn't matter. The only way that true change happens is because we want it. That is literally the only real thing that any human needs to change is to really authentically in here want it. It can't be about the network for her. It can't be about her fans. It can't be about anything other than Karen Huger. And that's my concern. To me, it's about everything other than Karen right now. And that's what's bothering me a little bit. But to her defense, some of this denial and minimization is normal. It's just most of people, when they're in that early recovery process, they don't have a camera pointed at them. But if they did, this is what you would see. And it's very rare for someone to go to treatment one time and never have issues again. There's a saying in recovery that relapse is a part of recovery. And what that means is that, this process, like I said, it's not linear. So there are people who in the program of recovery, they can have 10 years, 12 years, 30 years sober, whatever it is. But they'll say, well, whoever woke up today earliest, you have the most time. Because it's all we have is today. All we have is the here and now, the present today, and our authentic selves. And so I guess what I'm saying is that while some of it's normal, I feel so important to talk about it because it's very triggering for people who are seeing this and are like, well, wait, this doesn't seem right. And I'm just here to validate that it's not quite right. She needs a little bit more time.
I'm actually really impressed with the amount of people who have an issue with everything that she said in the interview with Andy, because it just goes to show as a society, we're pretty savvy to our bullshit meters are pretty tuned up.
Well, they are until it comes to Craig Conover, which we'll get to him in a minute. But I do also think that's an interesting thing to note is that people are hard on women of color. I think society is really hard on. And pretty privilege is a very real thing. And so we'll talk about that in a minute with Craig. Karen said that on her sobriety journey, she said, quote unquote, I'm in recovery for life on all levels. Okay. So here's my problem with that. No person in real recovery would say that I'm in recovery forever because the literal point of the 12-step program is to say one day at a time. For today, we can be sober. But we don't know what tomorrow brings. And some people, that's how they stay sober. They stay sober literally one day at a time. And they say to themselves, well, if I want to drink, I can drink tomorrow, but for today, I'm going to be sober. And then that's how they get through it.
It's so hard.
It's so hard. And so
God.
I also do want to validate that for people who are really doing the work. It takes blood, sweat, and tears. And I hope that Karen is able to do it. But like, to say I'm in recovery for life on all levels is not, she's avoiding things and she's distracting. And here's what she's distracting from. Andy said, quote, "You were not completely comfortable calling yourself an alcoholic," when he did the interview. Karen said, "No, I'm still not. That's a personal choice." Andy said, "Isn't part of being an addict owning that?" Which, great question, because yes, it is. Karen said, "I'm owning everything about it, but there's also a choice you make which empowers you," which is word salad for nonsense.
So what do you think behind that? To me, it sounds like she's still drinking.
Well, if she's not, this attitude will be the result.
Okay. Because it sounds like she was doing alcohol and pills, allegedly. Okay. Well, she's saying, like anxiety medicine, she's basically saying like antidepressants is what caused this, which we talked about, which we, you and I both had a real problem with. It's just very reckless. So whatever it is that she was taking, it sounds like maybe she stopped that, but is continuing to drink.
I also think that, is this a tactic so that she can go back on Potomac and drink with the ladies? That's, that's the concern. And someone like Karen, I'm going to tell you that if she continues to drink, she's going to die. Something bad is going to happen. I'm going to tell you that right now. And so what is frustrating is that, again, in recovery, a drug is a drug is a drug is a drug. It doesn't matter if it's alcohol. It doesn't matter if it's pills, whatever it is, a drug is a drug is a drug. And anyone in recovery will tell you that to try to say, oh, well, this drug doesn't matter, but this drug does, that's denial. I mean, that is plain old
There's
denial.
No levels. It's not, it's gray area.
Yeah. Because if she was an alcoholic 20 years ago when she was day drinking at Legal Seafood, she still, I mean, that doesn't just spontaneously improve.
Well, when she cops to like, yeah, she, Ashley got me on that one. That's absolutely. So she's doing the thing like a politician would do,
Yes.
Where they're
yes.
embracing it. And it's like she has gotten coaching, or, I'm sure being as public as she is, even just on a personal level before she was even on the show, like she has gotten away with so much over the years, just even living in Potomac society. So the way that she handles this stuff is very much like a politician. So she'll be like, yeah, that's true. 100% true. Oh, yeah. So by owning something 120% doesn't mean that you can own something else 20%. It just doesn't work that way. It's very confusing.
Right. And her behaviors and her words give her away. Like, she's saying that she's owning something, but she's not. It's her way to differentiate in her mind. Well, if I drink, that's a me decision. But if I blame the pills, that was a doctor. And the core of that thinking, that is the problem that will lead to continued alcohol use. Alcohol is a problem for her, full stop. If she's not willing to admit that, she's going to continue to have more problems, full stop. And furthermore, the last thing she said before we move on is Andy asked about the backlash about her standing ovation she received at BravoCon. Karen said, "Facing your addiction is a brave act." And I thought, oh, God. So the thing is that I have a lot of people in recovery that listen to this podcast. I'm sure their heads are exploding. It's like, yes, recovering from a disease that wants to kill you is a brave act. But again, someone with humility, any ounce of humility, that's not the approach that they're going to take. Right? They're going to say different words. They're going to expect different things. She still expects for people to do that with her. And that is as dangerous as the drink, as she calls it.
Yeah, it is. And also, like, it isn't, I don't even know if people, like, what were you supposed to, I don't think they had any other choice but to clap. Like, here she comes out and everyone's just like, wow, she's here. So someone's like, and another person,
like, a slow, they're like, what do we?
Woo! I don't even think that they wanted to do it. It was an awkward position to put everybody in. Why are you bringing her out on stage?
Right. Well, and that's the
weird
thing
to me. Like, that whole situation was bizarre. Okay, so she's at the convention. She's not at the panel, but you're going to bring her out to say, like, I don't know what. I'm not quite sure.
I know. Think that I'm going to be interested to see what producers do with her. Will she just be back on the next season? Will she replace Giselle? Because Giselle didn't even have a damn package because she doesn't talk about anything. Which when I clocked that, I was like, you're in danger, girl.
I never would have. And I never would have clocked it either. And I wouldn't have. I don't pay attention to people's packages. Like, and honestly, I'm like, fast forwarding through them, we've seen the packages.
Well,
I don't care about the package. Let's get to the shit. Let's get into because you guys cut all this stuff. And, there's probably plenty of stuff I'd like to see in place of the packages anyway. Like blah, blah, blah with the packages.
Boom, Amy. Boom. We've already seen those. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Let's move on. All right.
So, yeah. So moving on to the other Bravo problem child that is Craig Conover. And what I want to share with people, I shared this on the last week's episode, is that I have not been more trolled than when I post about Craig's behavior, which says a lot because people love to troll me.
And I've heard a lot of times when you've texted me or we've talked and you are flabbergasted with A, the amount of things that people that have said things, and B, who has slid into your DMs and said things. That's also blown my mind. So what did you post that set these trolls off?
I'm going to read one paragraph to explain to you a little bit of how insane the Bravo fandom has gone trying to support terrible behavior that doesn't deserve being supported. Okay. The first line of the episode of Southern Charm is Craig saying to a crying Sally, "Oh, we are so sad at how we get punched back." That was the first line of the episode, Amy. First line.
Wow.
He said, listen, these ears caught that right away. He slurred it. It was like
in
almost
in the van, he said that?
As he was getting out of the van. He said, "We are so sad at how we get punched back." That's literally what he said. So then, okay, here's the rest of what I wrote. First, Sally sincerely did nothing. Second, "You made me do it" is a dangerous and manipulative stance. Since we don't know these people, it's important to take the lead of how the group experienced the event. And it's clear that the entire group feels concerned about Craig's behaviors. Sally cried, which is a normal human response to being verbally accosted. Charlie looked shocked, saying it was awful. Austin said Craig is insane, and Whitney said Craig goes from Bruce Banner to the Incredible Hulk.
Accurate. Very accurate. Except the Incredible Hulk, saves people and helps people and uses his anger for good.
For good.
Okay. Okay, Marvel Universe. What's up?
Clock that, Amy. Clock that. Okay. But so the point is that I am calling out Craig's behaviors that are abusive when he's under the influence, to yell at women, to verbally accost women, to tell someone they're an idiot, they're a loser, all these other things. The behavior is inherently problematic. And I will stand 10 fucking toes down on the fact that Craig's behavior is ridiculous. It needs to get called out. And I don't understand why there are certain people in the Bravoverse who just have what seems like a free pass to do whatever it is they want to do, and there are still fans that will support them. I have not had anyone other than women come into my comments to say that I should be ashamed of myself, I should lose my license. Sally gets what she asks for. Vanita is a cunt.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, right. These are some of the comments that I get. And the reason why I'm sharing it is that we live in a real world where there will be bad behaviors right in front of our face, and then there will be some insane group of people trying to pee on our leg and tell us it's raining, that the behaviors aren't bad. And it's like, no.
Wow.
No.
I'm looking at your post because I'm just trying. You probably already deleted and blocked and all that stuff.
Sure
did. Did you by any chance go to their profile to see if it's an actual person or if it's a bot?
Yes. So, because that's the other thing we had talked about. Some of them are definitely bots because some of them didn't have a profile picture. They were following 3 people or had no followers and no profile picture. So some of it for sure, I do believe now in my experience that Craig's team has allegedly paid for bots to do his bidding on the internet, because also some of the comments that I got seemed like the person was personally hurt. People telling me to shut up, or people being you're just biased against Craig. Who even cares that you're a therapist? And it's yeah, no one has to care that I'm a therapist. I'm not saying that I'm right. But what I'm saying is it sounds like something that Craig himself might say. So it's either bots on Craig's behalf or people who, I don't know, inexplicably have this parasocial relationship with him where because Craig is handsome, like here's the thing, Craig is the opposite of my type because I don't suffer king babies. I don't suffer man children. I don't suffer that. So I would never be attracted to him in 100 million quadrillion years. But objectively, what I'm saying is like people do, the pretty privilege is a real thing. And so I feel like he has either bots and or, you know, just women who have internalized misogyny of like, I'm going to go in. Like for people to say that Sally and Vanita are the problem is so insane. And here's the thing. I am not saying like everyone in relationship plays a role, right? So Sally plays a role, Vanita plays a role. They're not perfect. I'm not saying they're always right. But when Craig is being reactive from a place of being blackout drunk, he is always in the wrong. That is always wrong.
After watching Southern Charm for so long, and just I've always loved Craig. I love the cast, you know, for better or worse. You know, to get to this point where we know his journey, we know his relationship with Paige, we know all of this, we know where he is in life currently on the show as we're watching, with his heart, like, you know, trampled on, the love of his life, if that's what it was, now gone, and him making the decision to now just drink. And we saw this example of him treating someone so horribly right in front of our face. It was as plain as day. It cannot be ignored. It can't be justified. So to walk away from that and to have any question about what that was is really alarming if somebody can't call it for what it is. When he's had other situations, I can tell you there's always room for justifying it for him. There's more wiggle room.
Yes.
And I've been in that place myself where I'm like, Austin is constantly baiting Craig. Like, why is he coming after him? Craig is just trying to be single. When he was sober, not going out, Austin had a problem with that. Now he's trying to have fun and be a single guy. Now Austin has a problem with that. Like, I was really annoyed with Austin. Okay. So cut to also me thinking, why is he drinking again? This is horrible.
After he's identified as an addict, by the way, which is the main reason why we call this out, because the man himself has said, I am an addict. And yet he's drinking and getting blackout drunk and verbally accosting people. Please continue.
And now, as you said, it's one day at a time. So we've now seen a relapse. Okay. But when he was sober, he was doing it for Paige. You know, he was doing it for that. So it's like he never really did it for Craig, is what it seemed to me. This is just my opinion. But
no, you're right. And that's, Amy, that is why the change hasn't stuck. Because remember what I said before, when we get sober or do things for a relationship, to stay out of jail, to stay out of rehab, whatever it is, if we do anything other than for ourselves, that's a setup for failure. It's never going to stick. Never.
That's so tough. How do you even, okay, I know that this is just going, I'm just digging real deep, real quick. How do you shift from just staying away from doing it so that you don't have the consequences to, wow, deep within me, I want to be a healthier person making better decisions? How do you even get to that place? Like, what
time, practice, and continued, whether it be therapy or participation in a 12-step program or an alcohol program, something that helps keep the guardrails up. It is the imperative thing to get that shift to happen is by what I call acting opposite. So even if you're doing it for other reasons, you continue to show up, you continue to do the work, you continue to stay sober. And eventually that shifts to, I do this for me.
So it's possible that in both cases, Karen and Craig, who are in different places, but they both have dipped into some level of sobriety for not necessarily the right reasons, but for relationship or not facing more dire consequences in Karen's case. If they were to stay on that course, whether relapse or not, if they continue doing this, even if for the wrong reasons, is there hope that they will eventually maybe walk the walk, live it from the best part of their soul?
Yeah. 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 I fully believe that there is hope for all human beings and that all humans are capable. But there are so many factors, environmental, genetic, social, all these constructs and factors that inform how that goes. And one of the factors is the social group around you. What are they doing? So, for example, when it comes to Craig, people are tolerating his bullshit. And with Karen, they weren't going to tolerate it anymore. And do you see the differences between them? Like, look at where Karen is versus where Craig, because by the way, Craig was never sober. He just said that he was an addict. He said it while holding a bottle of alcohol, like on the beach, like
Yeah, on the
last year.
beach. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know that he was really ever sober. I think he used Paige as his guardrails.
Yeah.
And then once, like, because someone made the observation, they're like, Craig seems to fall apart when he's not in a relationship, but Shep seems to fall apart when he is in a relationship. And I thought to myself, I think Craig sees relationships as his guardrails, but Shep sees relationships as shackles. And so that's why they react the way they do.
Yeah.
But going back to this Craig thing is that Karen, if you want to look at Karen and Craig, Karen is light years ahead of Craig because at least she's able to admit, I'm struggling and I did this and I need to change. Because what Craig is doing, so publicly when he meets with Whitney, he says that he's perfectly imperfect, which I just wanted to throw the remote at the TV because that is such a shitty justification for being an asshole. Number one.
Yeah.
Number two, so publicly, and this is the problem. This is what I'm getting to. This is what I think the problem is for Craig. And until he deals with this, he's not going to be able to be successful. Craig says publicly he hates how he gets agitated, and it's a reminder that there's things to improve on, saying to Whitney, I could have made different choices. However, in a confessional, he said, quote unquote, cool, I fucked up once in like 2 years, my bad. And then he rolled his eyes. Okay.
Now, this is before he's seen the footage, I imagine. He doesn't even know what he did because he was blackout drunk.
How long has he been on Southern Charm? How many years does he have of seeing his behavior over and over and over again? He's seen it. He's seen it, but he doesn't want to see it, right?
I have never seen him act that way, that bad to another gal on the show.
Really?
Have you? Yeah.
With Cameron? Well, I've seen him that drunk before on the show, behaving
I've just
badly, but
never seen him be that verbally abusive to another cast member on that level. And I should say a woman. Now, has he been that way to like Austin or Shep? Yeah, I guess. But I guess for me, I push that aside because I'm like, these dudes are just all a bunch of assholes. And, so maybe that is something that he has shown us and I just haven't paid attention. He has shown us that he gets blackout drunk. This is the worst I have ever personally, and I could be dead wrong. So I'm open to being corrected. But I'm wondering when he sees this or when he did see it, like, that's the question. What are you going to do when you see what you did? And everybody saw what you did.
And I still maintain he wouldn't care because here's why. The group of people around him, they're all telling him, your behavior is a problem. We are scared of your anger. We are scared of you when you drink.
Yeah.
And it's everybody else's fault but his. His ego is too big and he has too many defenses up to be able to take, because like to be able to take ownership of our stuff, we have to be able to take our defenses down and have a bit of humility and ego strength to say, okay, this doesn't feel good to hear that I'm screwing up. That doesn't feel good for anyone, but I need to hear the feedback and then I need to do something about that. And Craig is doing the opposite of that. I mean, unless I see otherwise, unless we see him next week and he's, or I don't know, we see him evolve over time.
If we see him in real time, well, I haven't even checked, but I mean, I think that it would have gotten in the Bravo news if he publicly was like, I am disgusted with my behavior. I'm making changes. I'm like, we haven't seen that.
No. And in fact, why I brought up the social media stuff is that we're seeing the opposite of that, where Craig is doubling down and so is everyone in his orbit, not people who know him on the show, but people outside of the show. There should be no one coming into the comments to be like defending his behavior.
Right.
But alas, There are an innumerable amount of people who are like, well, this is no, like he doesn't, people who want to defend Craig, you might defend him to a place where he gets himself into really bad situations, jail, institution, death, what have you. It's not a service to these people to enable them. And by the way, Shep is his number one enabler. And I said, here's what's interesting. In a confessional, Shep literally explained how he was enabled by his mom. Did you catch that story?
No. What do you mean?
Okay. So Shep goes, Shep is saying, well, I know that Craig is feeling terrible and I don't want him to be a pariah because Shep is projecting Shep is out of control with his alcohol. So he projects his mistakes that he's made onto Craig. And he's like, oh, we should be easy on Craig. But he's really talking about how he wants himself to be treated, in my opinion. But in a confessional, Shep literally explains that he was kicked out of boarding school and his mother came to pick him up, folded his clothes, packed his things neatly, and comfortably drove him home, saying, I don't even need to say anything because I'm sure you feel bad enough. Okay. So Shep is literally saying, here's why Shep is the way he is, because he was enabled by important people in his life.
Wow.
Because
that's amazing. You are a therapist. That's what you heard.
That's what I heard.
That just would not have understood it on that level. I honestly, and I'm going to be fully honest with you, I thought to myself, if I was in that situation with my daughter, what would I have said? Would it have been worse to just rail into her about what just happened and make her or if I saw that she was so distraught and so upset, would I do the same? Would it be better to say, I know how upset you are. I'm not even going to say anything. But what I landed on, and so my point is, I wondered if that was an okay move on his mom's part. And then I landed with my own self, cutting it kind of in the middle where I would probably say, I know you're upset. And I'm not going to, we don't need to talk about it right now. This is awful. And I'm going to be there for you, but we are going to talk about it. And we'll talk about it later. Yeah.
And there you go. The reason why Shep is the way he is because there's no, we're going to talk about it later. There's no accountability. Because here's the thing.
Wow.
Holding people we love accountable doesn't mean conflict or yelling or being angry. In fact, I don't think parents should treat kids like that. I think, talking to your child like they're a human being is important. Like you talk to a friend or a loved one. But I think that it's the point of when that happens chronically over and over, that people are allowed to get away with things and they're not lovingly held accountable in that way, you get a Shep. You get a Shep. Yeah. And then you get a Shep who wants to enable a Craig because Shep is so deep in his own shit that he is projecting this all into Craig. I know, it's wacky. It's wacky.
It is wild to hear also just your takes on it because it's a perspective that I just would not have. I would not be able to see. Anyway, but furthermore, I do want to say it's just so disappointing not disappointing. It's disappointing to see Craig act that way. It's really hopeful that Southern Charm producers allowed that cut and what we saw to be aired.
Right.
Because I think that they've probably been protecting him all these years. So we never got to see those things.
Can I tell you, I had a production assistant for Southern Charm slide right in to my DMs.
Yes.
And basically said that Craig's behavior has been abhorrent for years and he gets a darling cut. He gets a darling cut every single year. But his behaviors are known to be bad. They've been bad, they've stayed bad, and they are essentially enabled.
Wow. And I think it's come to a point where they're like, this train needs to start slowing down, which is why you see Whitney going, Bruce Banner. You see him being like Jekyll and Hyde. You see him almost trying to in the last, 2 minutes of the game, cover his ass because this has gotten so far that it's dangerous.
Right. Literally. And that's the thing. It's loving people means holding them accountable. So I want to root for Craig. I want to root for Karen. I want to cheer for these people. But you got to do the work to get that. Otherwise, you're just harming people. You're harming yourself and you're harming other people around you. And I don't suffer that. I'm just not going to suffer that. That's not how I roll.
The hot box.
Oh, the giant pizza oven that I called it the giant pizza oven. Because that's what it looked like. And by the way, I call Whitney the Prince of Darkness.
Yes, that makes sense. That checks out. And I think he's actually the hippie school he went to. Now it actually makes so much sense.
Doesn't it?
Why he is who he is. I was like, why didn't we get this a long time ago? Finally, we get something from you.
Right.
Yeah, the tent where they went for an hour, which looked miserable. And no one as thin as those gals should be in that situation. But Craig, the edit was, exposing him the last few episodes of like, you're not dealing with your issues. The shaman or whomever was leading it saying, you have to face things whether you like it or not. And he's like, I got to get out of here and I'm leaving. But how uncomfortable. Craig tried his hardest to stick in there, even at the end when they're all kind of circled up and everyone's having these moments. Like Rodrigo's like, oh my God, my abuela. And people are getting really deep about that experience. They feel lighter. They feel like they've shed a lot of stuff. And Craig is kind of standing around and he's smiling a lot. And I really was able to take in just like, wow, all of the layers that are in front of him that he's built around himself. And I just thought, wow,
yes.
no.
Yeah. And that's an astute observation. Yeah. It really is a microcosm of what happens in Craig's life, where he's in this thing. He doesn't want to be in it, but he's in it. He went there because Charlie didn't want to get a massage. So he went with the rest of the group. He's like, I can't do this. The guide's like, stick it out. And he's like, I'm too claustrophobic. I can't. And it's like, there's always an excuse for why we can't do things. Yeah. But the fact is that growth and healing is hard. It's not, takes blood, sweat, and tears. It's not for the faint of heart. And we're not just going to fall or trip into it. Right. And so until Craig is ready to be honest with himself and others, and he's ready to do the work, we're going to see the same old stuff. And until then, I'm going to continue to call it out. And I don't care how many people don't like it.
And as you should, because that is your voice in this world. And like I said, when you're talking about these different perspectives and things that I just never would have saw, that's what I really appreciate about it. Yeah.
Thanks, Amy. Well, speaking of girl power, let's move on to some Olympic stuff in the last few minutes of this amazing podcast. Elisa Liu, for me, is like the representation of like a badass woman who, was doing this. She quit because she didn't like it. She went off. She did other things. She grew. She learned. And then she came back and then she crushed it with a frenulum piercing and wild hair and just like unapologetically herself.
Yeah.
And I just loved, we were texting about her, and there was another girl who you really liked.
Michaela Schifrin.
Yes.
And there was another gal too.
I just think like to represent and to see these badass, empowered female athletes.
Yeah.
The women's hockey team, it just gave me like my brain. It was like CPR for my brain, like serotonin and epinephrine. It was just like, it's okay, Melissa's brain. There's good things happening in the world.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And also, what a different generation it is for women. What an example that these young ladies are for an entire generation of kids coming up and looking at them going, wow. Elisa, her father, like, it's such a wild story. He was single and he wanted to have kids. He had 5 kids with a surrogate. And then I think he eventually got married, and stuff. But Elisa was the first. And so he really poured into her like almost upwards of $1 million with her skating career, because he said he saw the potential. He saw the talent. And at some point, she was like, I don't want to do this anymore. He was not happy about that, obviously. 2022 Olympics,
he was mad.
Beijing. Yeah. Yeah. She got 6th place, which was like the highest any U.S. American had gotten in a while, in a long time in figure skating. So she already did exceedingly well. Regardless, she wanted to stop. He had a problem with that. Cut to, they were like, what did you do? I tried every hobby.
Boom. And that is one of the characteristics is she gave herself the gift of autonomy. So autonomy is like a term for having our own sense of agency, not feeling like we have to get up and skate and do this because our dad says, and I want to get into the Olympics. She learned what made herself happy and did that. And that is one of the huge things that leads people to be successful, what she did right there.
Wow. And it's also like she ended up coming back to skating, which is honestly a little surprising because she could have never come back, but she obviously did enjoy it on some level. The way that she explained it was that I realized that skating is something that I really enjoy because of all these other things I've experienced. It's like the creativity, the music, the choreography, the artisticness, all the things that she tried. And then she came back to, wow, this is why I like this, which is kind of unheard of, especially when you look at the Olympics. All you're doing is just working so hard to get to be perfect, to win. At the end of the day, you're not out there because you love it. You know what I'm saying? You're not there because you love it. Now, she told her father, do not want you to come on this, tour, and I don't want you to be involved in any way. And she also was like, I don't know how he felt about it, and I don't really care. And when after the winning the gold, I remember one of the interviews, they're like, and what did your dad say? And she's like, I haven't even talked to him yet. Like she has washed her hands of any. Yeah. Wow.
But because I think so. And here's the thing that I want to share is that she embodies so much of what it means to be a resilient human being and to put her own needs first and not her dad's and not America's and not the Olympics. I believe that is why she's successful, because she's like, oh, I got rid of all the shit that didn't serve me. And I realized how the love of this is so powerful for me. And when she took off the shackles of everything else, look how she thrived.
Oh my God.
Look how she thrived.
The way she skates. And I look back at the 2022 skate and she has a similar relaxed vibe about her. However, it is vastly different. I mean, you can see the joy when she skates.
And that's exactly it. It's like the joy. And listen, I'm not an Olympic athlete, but what I can relate to is that when I'm doing this podcast, because I need to get one done every week versus the joy of doing it, you can tell in my voice and my presentation, right? When we love what we're doing versus when we just have to do it, there's those differences. So there's a couple of things that I think people would be interested to share. So Psychology Today, there was a 2002 study, 10 U.S. Olympic champions, 6 men, 4 women, participated in in-depth interviews. The athletes completed a psychological battery of tests. Together, they won 32 medals, 28 of them gold. And the athletes have competed in one or more Olympic Games between 76 and 98. Okay, so this is where it comes from. And so this study found 12 core psychological characteristics shared by these Olympic champions. Number 1, the ability to cope with and control anxiety. That's going to be huge, right? Because the field of sports psychology is a field talking about the mind-body connection, utilizing psychological research to optimize athletic performance, mental health, and well-being. Wow. Because so much of our participation, football players, people who are at the top of their game, it's a mental game. And so that's why the whole field of sports psychology exists, which it was always something I was super interested in.
So cool.
Yeah, it is very cool. So in addition to number 1, the ability to cope and control anxiety, number 2 is confidence. But confidence also means are you positively motivated? Like, what is motivating you? Are you motivated out of fear, out of upsetting your parent, or are you positively motivated and feeling good about your ability to be good at your sport, essentially?
Wow.
3, and I think this for me, as a 2-time cancer survivor, this is when people ask me, how do you do this? This is my answer. Mental toughness. I am like a cockroach. There is nothing in this world, and there's been many obstacles that will stop me. But the key to being successful is the ability to fall flat on your face, come back up, and try again over and over and over again. And so mental toughness and resilience, the ability to persevere and to successfully cope with adversity.
Wow.
That's huge. And she has a lot of that. A lot of that. Number 4 is sports intelligence. So obviously knowing all the ins and outs of your sport. Obviously, that's going to be a huge thing. 5 is the ability to focus and block out distractions, which is another huge one.
How do you do that? How do you do that? Figure skating especially. You're getting out there in the middle of all those people.
Well, there's some skills and techniques that I'll mention in just a minute, because there's some evidence around like, how do you do some of this stuff? 6 is competitiveness, which broke down into 3 themes. The 3 themes: having a killer instinct, being intense, meaning like having an aggressive and go for it attitude, and then being competitive, being a fighter and never giving up, which again talks to that mental resilience part, like just not giving up.
Yeah.
The 7th thing is a good work ethic, because to be great at anything, there's a lot of time, practice, preparation.
Get up and go, baby.
Get up and go, honey bunny. Right. 8, the ability to set and achieve goals. 9 is coachability, which, by the way, coachability, we're going to go back to Craig and Karen for a minute, is like coachability also extends to life. Like, how coachable are you when you receive feedback from friends, from therapists, from people in your life? How coachable are we?
No one in the Bravo universe is coachable.
Very few. Very few.
The 2 subjects that we are speaking on today. So
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Now, number 10 is hopefulness, which I think is also in life. The key to life is being hopeful. Optimism, which is basically, this is not toxic positivity, but optimistic people confront challenges with confidence and persistence. That kind of optimism. You don't have to see the world as everything is peachy, but you have to be optimistic about your ability to do all these things.
Okay.
And then the last thing, which this struck me, was perfectionism. Now, there are two kinds of perfectionism: maladaptive and adaptive, both types being known for setting high personal standards. But maladaptive perfectionism is associated with being overly critical with making mistakes, whereas adaptive perfectionism is positively linked with achievement.
Wow.
Yes. So, to your question of how the hell do we do these things? Number 1, they talk about pre-competition routines. So creating consistent rituals to build comfort and focus. So this is something that all people can do. These are things like mindfulness and visualization, practicing mental imagery to help prepare for scenarios, seeing yourself doing
Visualizing yourself.
Yes. Visualizing for me is a huge skill that I think a lot of people underutilize.
Wow.
I think it gets confused with manifesting, because manifesting is great, but we have to see ourselves doing the hard thing, kind of, if that makes sense.
It does.
So I almost recommend to people to like visualize what it would look like for you to be successful doing this, and then kind of learn from that and go from there.
Great advice. I love that.
Another one is positive self-talk. So like, how we talk to ourselves is so important. And if you make a mistake and you're like, you dumb bitch, you're never going to do this right. Well, that's going to impair you, right? So whether there's this saying, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. So what we think about ourselves and our ability to be successful at things, that is largely will we be successful or not? And then honestly, letting go of mistakes. So making a mistake and then being like, okay, I made it, and then refocusing after and trying it again.
Hilarious that in that list was perfectionism. And then like the next one's like letting go. I'm like, okay. So basically the impossible,
I know. It's
Unless
tough.
You're an adaptive perfectionist. You might have a chance.
Exactly. Yes, because I am what we call maladaptive perfectionist.
In all of those things, I am no, I'm kidding. Positive talk. Positive talk.
And so I think, though, the message is just that, like, do the things you love as best as you can, give yourself grace, set goals, and be resilient. I mean, that's essentially and again, the answer to how do we do that is we practice one day at a time, day in and day out. We act opposite until things really align with us. And then we're like, hey, we're doing it. Like riding a bike.
Fake it till you make it with a positive attitude.
With a positive self-view. With a positive view of like, listen, we can do anything that we set our minds to. That is the kind of view. Not like everything's going to go perfectly. We're going to be fine. We might fall flat on our face. But whatever's coming will come, and we'll meet it when it does.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So, So, Amy, any
I love
last
that.
words about any of this?
Well, I'm very much down with everything you said. And I just want to mention, give a special shout out to Michaela Schifrin, who did win the gold for downhill skiing. And she lost her dad tragically in an accident in 2020. And so this winning a gold was a huge thing for her in 2026. She spoke on like it was just basically a press interview. And you'd think that they'd be very impersonal because there's a lot of people there and they're at the desk and, but for some reason, she was able to become completely vulnerable, completely transparent, and share with everyone that this was an unbelievable transition in her life, winning this gold medal and competing in this Olympics without her father, because this is a moment that she said she dreamed about. And she's also been really scared about because she would have to experience this without her father. Right. And she openly talked about grief. Whether she said the word grief or not, it was sharing such an important message. And I've never heard it articulated in this way. She said, everything in life that you do after you lose someone you love is like a new experience. It's like being born again. And I still have so many moments where I resist this. I don't want to be in life without my dad. And she said that her gold medal and this Olympics helped her come to terms with this, because before she was going to compete, there was morning and then afternoon, she was going to take a nap. And she said that she started to cry and she started to think about her father, but then had a change in her perspective that helped her focus on her goal. She said, I was thinking about the fact that I actually can show up today and honestly say in the start that I have all the tools that are necessary to do my best skiing and to earn that moment. And that she wanted to take that moment and communicate in her heart and in her mind with the people that have been there and thank them. But also that instead of mourning the loss of her dad, that he wasn't there in that moment, but to take the silence and the time to be with him in that moment without his presence there, but that he was with her and for her to feel that. So she kind of like crossed over to another side of grief, essentially, with this and explained that in a press conference about her gold medal. Who does that these days? Like, that's the generation of leaders.
An amazing woman. My God. Yeah. Leaders, people who are just like built differently, made differently. We can learn lessons from them. And that is such wisdom.
From such a young person. It just blew my mind. And she inspired, she must have inspired so many people. I mean, I just look at her and I think this is such a young person that has achieved so much in the world of the eye, in the eyes of the world, but also most importantly within herself and her own journey. I mean, it's just so exciting.
Right. And I feel like this all comes full circle, this podcast, back to, I think what really matters is, do we feel we are capable of managing the things that are coming our way and being honest with ourselves about that? Like, you can't be great until you're able to look at, well, here's this mistake and here's this misstep, and I need to hear this feedback and all of that. And so I feel like from what we talked about at the beginning till now, there's a lot of lessons that we can learn from these Olympians that apply far outside of any sports or Olympics. It's just like how to be a successful human being and thrive at whatever you're doing.
And the mental aspect of it, which is what you really were addressing, and the sports psychology of it, which is why I like leaning into this with you, is because that's what you cover. With in the case of in the past, when you hear from athletes and these Olympians after they win a medal and so forth, usually, I mean, I don't want to completely compartmentalize, or just like narrow it down to just one story, but it's usually the journey is like, I injured my leg and I built myself back up and I trained and everything that went behind that. It's not, I lost my father and now I have to compete without him. And I'm grieving at the bottom of this snowy mountain thinking, how am I going to do this? Because I don't want to be here without him. To share that. And then also, with Elisa Liu, I had to stop everything I was doing and focus on me. Like, who are these people? Who is this generation? It makes for a hopeful, look to the future, Melissa. Thank you.
And what a way to end the podcast.
Yes, yes.
Hopeful
indeed.
look to the future. There are great people in this world that are doing great things. There are helpers everywhere. There are, in the midst of the chaos, there is beauty. And I think it's great to see that and to recognize that. So, wow, Amy, what a journey we've gone on today.
Holy smokes. We really did. We really did.
So please let everybody, know where they can find you. And,
you know where to find me, Drama Darling, anywhere you listen to your podcasts. Also, if you want more recaps and also ad-free as well as video, head on over to patreon.com/Drama Darling. I'm at Meet Amy Phillips on Instagram. And you?
And please check me out on Instagram at Your Bish Therapist. Please check out my Patreon where we, like Amy, I do ad-free, full video, all of that. I love my Patreon. That's where it's at. And this episode will be coming out at free and available everywhere on Tuesday. And I'm so excited. I can't wait for everyone to listen. I think this was really great. And Amy, as always, I just appreciate you and your perspective. And this has been really wonderful.
Yeah,
so thank you so much. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Sending love to you and yours. And we'll say ta-ta for now, everybody.
Send it in the next.
Disclaimer. Posts are not intended to diagnose, treat, or provide medical advice. Your Bish Therapist is for entertainment and informational purposes only. The podcast, my opinions, and posts are my own and not associated with past or present employers, any organizations, Bravo TV, Greyheart Productions, or any other television network. The information in YBT podcast and on its social media is provided for general informational purposes only and is not intended to diagnose or treat. Please do not act or refrain from acting based on anything you read, see, or hear on YBT podcast or associated social media. Communicating with YBT via email and or social media does not form a therapeutic alliance. Melissa, operator of YBT, is unable to provide any therapeutic advice, treatment, or feedback.